Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be breaking down the results from the Charlotte Regional Championships this past weekend, the largest regionals to date. We'll be talking about some drama that came out after the tournament, lying and deceit and drama and intrigue in the Pokemon TCG. We will, of course, have everyone's favorite segment, Guess That Flavor Text. And then we're going to wrap up this episode by talking about the Liverpool Regional Championships coming up this weekend, where the meta's going, make some predictions, and then we're going to have our exclusive bonus episode over on the Patreon, patreon.com/uncommon energy podcast. If you would like to support us and get a 30-minute extra bonus episode from us every single week. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always in a different location. Actually, well, the same location for me. New location for Azul. That's right. Chip Ritchie here with Azul GG. What's going on, Azul? How we doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Chip. Just got back from the championship over in Charlotte. Did not have as good a run as I would have liked.
You didn't get back. What are
Um,
you talking about?
well, I got back. Got back to here from there, but I wasn't here before. I
You were
guess.
not here before.
Just came
For anyone who's
from.
listening, we are recording in person this week.
Yeah,
I live pretty close to Charlotte, so Azul came home with me, and we've been recording a couple things, and we're recording the podcast here in person this week. But yeah,
yeah.
Charlotte.
Came there from here. I didn't have a great run in Charlotte, but one thing that was great though
Yeah.
to come out of this weekend was the amount of support we got on the new YouTube channel, youtube.com/uncommon
Slash
underscore
at.
slash at. That's the
Yeah,
new thing
it
on
is
YouTube.
weird. That's how they do it.
Well, I
Yeah.
think you can still go get there by going to /uncommon_energy.
Okay.
You don't have to do the app, but the ad is like a way to like interact with it on YouTube, maybe more specifically, to be honest. But yeah, new YouTube channel, new style of videos from us, new style of videos in general. I think in the Pokemon TCG space, we're doing something a little bit different, not completely different to other TCGs. A lot of people did make a connection between our first video over on that channel compared to stuff that people do in Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and all that kind of stuff. So not new for TCGs, but new for the Pokemon TCG space. So we're doing something different that's not really being done right now on the new YouTube channel. So make sure you go check it out. We've already got a ton of support on our first video,
Yeah.
and we plan on being pretty consistent with our content. At least a couple videos. Hopefully, shooting for like 1 to 2 videos a month to start off with.
Yeah, probably one video a month-ish
Yeah.
for the next quarter or so, and we'll see if we can ramp it up from there. But yeah, really looking forward to what we've got going on the new Uncommon Energy channel. Thanks so much to all of you who already went over and subscribed. We're basically at 2,000 subscribers on that channel, and one video with over 13,000 views at this point. Absolutely
Good start.
incredible. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and so many like super kind comments as well. Like people, and that's something as well this weekend in Charlotte. I had a lot of people tell me like they loved watching the new Evolution series. So yeah, if you didn't watch it yet, we're doing something called the Evolution series. Definitely drawing inspiration from Simo is a big Yu-Gi-Oh YouTuber. He did a series called the Progression series with Yu-Gi-Oh. Also, another YouTube channel, Team APS, who just in general, when I've recorded tabletop videos in the past, like I've always taken a lot of inspiration from them. So we kind of tried to do some of the things that they were doing over there with Yu-Gi-Oh on this new YouTube channel. And yeah, we had a great time making the first episode. It was a lot of fun, and it seems like you guys really enjoyed it. So I really appreciate the support for sure. I was also in Charlotte, had a pretty good weekend. I did the casting spread up with Skarzig. We had a solid weekend. I think we actually saw some super exciting games. That top 8 match specifically coming down to the wire with it literally came down to Peony for double Pokemon catcher. 2 chances to flip heads to win. Otherwise, the guy just lost the next turn. It was super sick. A lot of really hype moments, which I am always excited to see in the Pokemon TCG. And yeah, I think with that being said, Azul, we can, speaking of Charlotte, hop in and talk about the results from the Charlotte Regional Championship. First off, largest regionals of all time. I actually saw a Twitter comparison between Charlotte last season and Charlotte this season. Let me see if I can pull it up and find the tweet. But it was like 1,100 players for TCG Masters in Charlotte last season. And this year we had 2,121, 2,121 TCG Masters players. Crazy growth year over year.
Yeah. It's a little bit harder to judge because I don't know if we hit the cap last year or not. So like maybe we
Sure.
could have had like 1,500 last year. And yeah, the East Coast ones are always are bound to be really, really big. But yeah, the growth is really good to see, of course, and we know it's been happening. And I think we are starting to see the the limit of it, though, right? Like we're starting to top out at where the growth potential is at least in North America. In Europe, it's a little bit harder to tell. Same thing with Latin America. They just finally got some more regionals on the schedule for Latin
Yeah,
America.
yeah, yeah.
So hopefully those have bigger caps than 400. Was it 300 or 400? 400 people, I think,
Yeah, it's
like
pretty crazy.
the first one they had. So hopefully it's a little bit bigger than 400 players, so we can see really how big the game is growing in in Latin America. Um, uh, but yeah, it's great to see, of course. And but yeah, I don't even think was Charlotte even sold out. I don't think it
I'm not sure that it
was.
was. There was
Yeah, it
definitely
was open for a little while at
space
least.
in the venue, it felt like, walking around. And that's
It was
another
big.
thing that was like, props to the organizer. It did feel like there was plenty of space in the venue itself. And I think that like that might have something to do with why this tournament was able to sell so many seats, right? Like
Yeah,
if you think about the Orlando Convention Center and how packed we were last year with 1,500 masters plus like the like 750 or whatever video game probably had. We were pretty crammed in that venue if you remember last year, but that's a pretty big venue, so
well,
hopefully,
there was plenty more halls. Like
yeah,
there
hopefully
was
we find
room.
bigger halls and stuff like that. But
Yeah, and I guess
um,
the bigger thing almost coming out this weekend was the seniors getting their first day too.
that's right.
Right? They had 247, I think. They need 227 to trigger the day two. Had their first day two, 5 round day two, not 6 rounds, because you do need 800 players to get there. But you're out seeing the growth in the seniors and juniors divisions. Like the juniors weren't that far, right? What was the number for
Like
juniors?
190 something.
Yeah.
A lot. I'll
So
look
like
it up.
NAIC, if it's allowed, juniors could have a day 3 day twos.
Juniors was 195.
Yeah, that's 32 players off.
Yeah, very close.
So at NAIC, if they allow like 300 juniors to register, I wouldn't be surprised if that cap hit. We could have a day two for juniors, seniors, and masters already this season, with just getting the first seniors day two. I feel like actually, but the juniors and seniors numbers are pretty comparable. It feels like most of the time they're pretty
They're pretty close.
close,
They are pretty
right?
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to see. I think that's actually more telling almost for the growth of the game. The masters division is huge. It's been huge. It's been growing, but it's a good sign that we're seeing the juniors and seniors division start to hit new strides as well, right?
Yeah. So we did talk about the seniors day two setup and all that, and it did end up being 6-3. Did make it into day two, but it was not clean cut into day two. Several 6-3 players did miss. It looks
Yeah.
like four of them missed out
How many
on
made it?
cut.
Four on day two, not cut
Five. It looks
anymore.
like five or so. One, two, three, four, five, six.
All right, so
630,
60-40.
680, 18 pointers made it. And if we look at the last round of Swiss, we can see what the record needed for top cut was. And yeah, 30 match points did not guarantee Gabriel Fernandez. Oh, Vinny's
Oh,
brother, unfortunately bubbling out of top
that would
eight.
have been crazy if both of the Fernandez had come over from Brazil and both
Pretty
won
insane.
Masters and Seniors. That would have been
Yeah,
pretty crazy,
that
actually.
would have been so sick. Yeah, Gabriel and spoiler alert, Vinny as well, who we haven't really talked about Vinny a lot on the podcast, but we've both known who Vinny is for a
Of
very
course, yeah,
long
yeah, yeah.
time.
Very
Um,
strong player in like the COVID era in the online
yes,
tournaments, and then was a senior for the first
I
post
remember even, and
COVID
I
season.
talked about this on the broadcast this weekend. Like, I feel like I remember back in like 2018 like seeing his name in Twitch chats and stuff,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
like
yeah,
he's been around for like and he has to have been like 11 or something like that
yeah.
whenever that was happening. So they've been playing the game forever. Gabriel Fernandez from Brazil, of course, the senior division world champion this year, did not make it into the top 8 though.
And actually, it was funny. I think I even mentioned this. I was like joke about it on the podcast a couple months ago, where it's like, Vinny, where you at? Gabriel's like
Yeah, I
overshadowing you. One
remember. I
world.
remember.
I think even won the region, the Curitiba. I think Gabriel won that as well, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. But yeah, of course, Vinny's in Masters, a little bit more difficult. But Vinny getting that first major win, which I think is just kind of expected, like to eventually happen. For how good of a player he is. It was kind of a matter of time situation more so than
for
anything.
sure. I mean, and it's his first year in Masters, and
Yeah.
he talked about this on the broadcast this weekend too. Like they have not had that many tournaments in
Yeah, he
Brazil.
hasn't really been able to
He
show.
got top 16 in Curitiba. He got
Yep.
top 64 at LAIC. Two solid finishes, right? And
Yep.
then wins in Charlotte this weekend. Part of the reason I think they said they came to Charlotte was because there's just were at the time when they booked and stuff like no tournaments
Yeah.
in South America in Brazil. So
Yeah, they
Ended
just
up,
want to play as Pokemon as much as the rest of us, and like it's not. I don't know how expensive it is. It doesn't seem like it's like that expensive for the Latin American players to get to the East Coast events. Usually, there's quite a few at like the Florida regionals and
right,
stuff like that. I'm sure.
right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Vinny and Gustavo and stuff like that be in play in Florida as well. I feel like I usually see them, or at least Gustavo and some of the other Latin American players come to like the Florida Regional Championship. So, and it's cool to see again because to be honest, like I was saying, like the last couple didn't feel as international as the first couple regionals in North America of the season.
Yeah,
So it's really cool to see the Brazilian players come over, and Gustavo as well made top 8, right? So Gustavo and Vinny in the top 8 was really cool. So it's really cool to like have
yeah.
them feel a little bit more
Played each other in top four, so we were like
yeah
guaranteed a Brazilian player
in the
in the
finals.
finals. Well, let's take
Yeah,
a look at the day one meta breakdown for the tournament. Charizard EX still
still
holding
number one,
strong,
still at 17. It was 17.
17%, number one most played deck in day one of the tournament.
Yeah, I was really feeling pretty confident in my predictions. I said it would come down to 14. I predicted Tina at 14 as well, so I thought it'd be close between those two. But no, Charizard solidly the number one deck,
Yeah.
I would
Now,
say.
and we talked about your tournament, but we really didn't talk about what you played. You decided to play Peony Maridon
Yeah.
for the event.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the past, you haven't been the big fan of Maridon, but obviously,
Yeah.
ever since Paradox Rift came out, the deck
The hands, pretty big deal.
looks a lot different. I've kind of said as well, like it feels like a Iron Hands deck that facades as a Maridon deck. Like you've
No,
got
this
other good lightning stuff, Maridon attacks sometimes, but
yeah.
Maridon is like really getting you going, getting you set up, and it's all about the Iron Hands. Like that's why the deck is so strong right now. But yeah, what led to you deciding to go with the Peony Maridon for this weekend? We see that
Um,
Maridon overall was the third most popular deck in day one.
yeah. And I mean, we just kind of ran our process. Our predictions were the meta was going to be a little bit better for Miraidon. Tina would be a little bit more popular. Charizard would be a little bit less popular. We expected Guardy and Mew to be a little bit more popular as well. We definitely did not predict Roaring Moon to be
Yeah,
almost 10%.
and that's a tougher matchup. I feel like for Maridon, like slightly unfavored.
I would say it's 50-50.
Okay.
I mean, like, I lost to Ben Cryer day one, and he was playing a catcher's build, which can be tough. But, like, even if they are playing, like, the catcher's build or they have cross switchers, they can get the first two prize knockout. But it really is about who goes second because, like, if they have to put the Luminium play or the Squawkabillion play, I can get a turn one knockout with a Raikou and then a hands for three later,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not pressured to have to KO a two prize Pokemon immediately. Whereas it's like, even when they go second, it's more likely they can get a two prize KO. Um, but they have to do it, right? So I think it's still like about a 50-50. Definitely not like a matchup we were playing Miraidon with the idea that the meta would be good for Miraidon, not a bunch of 50-50s. If we want to play a bunch of 50-50s, we would have just played Tina. So with Moon being as popular as it was, it definitely wouldn't have been a situation where it's like, oh, it's just another 50-50 for Miraidon. We've been like, this is a reason to not play Miraidon, is we don't want to walk into another 50. We don't want to walk into a 50-50. We're looking for advantages if we're going to play the Peony Miraidon deck. So it definitely, if we knew what the meta was going to look like going into the event, we wouldn't have played Miraidon, I don't think. But we expected something a little bit different, me in particular.
Yeah, I feel like the big shock on here is definitely the Roaring Moon at
Yeah,
nearly 10%, 9.67%. It converted really well into day two. We'll talk about
yeah.
that in just a moment.
And on top of that,
Well,
yeah,
the question I would want to know is like just like why did it feels like it's almost out of nowhere that Roaring Moon uh popped up and become so popular. What led to it? I mean, because I feel like in Portland, I think it was like not even in the top six. I can go double check.
My guess would be there was some hype for Roaring Moon going into Portland, but maybe there wasn't enough time for enough people to adjust. And I think the Ross build from Portland got a little bit of hype as well,
Sure.
for sure. So I think it's probably a combination of those two things. Like it's one of those things where it's like,
In Portland, it was not in the top six
yeah,
day one, by the way.
going into Portland,
Day
Roaring
two, it
Moon,
snuck into the day two meta share
yeah,
in Portland at 6.6%.
going to Portland, it was getting a little bit of hype before Portland, the hands build specifically. But there wasn't enough time for enough people to adjust and then like realize its potential and think it be a deck they wanted to play. But people had enough time before Charlotte to actually make that realization that hey, I actually really like this deck. I think it's good enough. And I think the Ross build also has a lot to do with that as well, which kind of came up from Portland, the jellies and stuff like that. So people just had enough time to adapt their build to the jelly build, plus kind of feel confident in the deck as well. I think we even saw like, which I was actually surprised, but I think Jesse Parker played Roaring Moon.
I think
Um,
JW's been super hype on it, like as
yeah,
far as their group goes.
yeah. Mahone did not go with it. Mahone was on the Mew.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Well,
I think he got top 32, right?
yeah, yeah.
What?
Top 32. I mean, his whole getup at the event was just funny with the Ravens chain and everything.
I'll pull it up.
But yeah, went with the Mew over the Roaring Moon. So yeah, I think it was just like people. It was like there was enough people to be comfortable with the deck. There was enough hype behind it for people that have tried it out for it to kind of hit its I don't know, crescendo, whatever you want to call it. But and thankfully though, it definitely had its result carried, right? Ross got top 8, which like it would be kind of it feels bad for it to get here at 10% of like the highest placing one was top 64, right? Because we see that sometimes where a deck like that's how Rapid Strike kind of felt the last couple times. It's hitting its peak
Mm-hmm.
and it's like zero top eights, zero top eights, and once again zero top eights for Rapid Strike. And
Mm-hmm.
Rapid Strike was pretty good, was solid into this meta, I think, overall. Well, I guess the Moon is what kind of stopped it here at this one specifically. Try to put little bit of hindrance to it, but you still have the Lost Tina and the Charizard at the top for it to deal with. So yeah, that's how Rapid Strike kind of felt. Like it was on the top 6 graphic over and over and over again. No top 8, no top 8, no top 8. Roaring Moon gets its first time on the top 8 or on the graphic top 8, right? So it's cool to see.
Well, we can look now at day 2. Stats doesn't have the data up right now for the tournament, so we can't see like what the conversion rate looked like. We'll talk a little bit about PokeStats here in a little bit, but we can look ourselves at the day 2 meta breakdown. See that Tina jumped up to 18% solid conversion rate. Tina does usually convert pretty well
Yeah.
into day 2. And Charizard did dip a little bit, not too abnormal to see whatever the number 1 deck is, dip down a little bit, usually for a combination of reasons of, just a lot of people playing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It being a little more countered because it is the most popular deck. Like, I think
Be part of it.
all of those things usually lead to whatever the top deck is coming down a little bit. And then Roaring Moon, pretty sizable increase, 13.64%, 30 out of the 220 day 2 players.
Yeah, and then I see the Roaring Moon gets the big boost. There's a lot of good players playing Roaring Moon,
There
choosing to play
was.
Roaring Moon as well. Um, and then Gardevoir and Mew get up to about the 11%. Miraidon takes a fall though from the 12 to the 7. Um, so nothing too crazy, I guess, as far as the stats go.
Yeah, nothing
For day 1 to day 2.
nothing
No
super
shocks.
surprising. I would say except for the moon maybe would be the most surprising
Yeah, that good of
thing.
a conversion rate, I
I saw a
guess.
tweet that was really funny yesterday or today that someone was like, what is going on with Roaring Moon? Like, how are you supposed to play this deck? If you look at the top 32 lists, they're all like 20 cards different from each other.
Yeah,
We've got the Greninja builds, we've got Hands builds, we've got, the Pokemon catchers, we've
town
got just
stores,
straight consistency, town stores,
cross
Galarian Moltres
stitchers.
V. I guess most of them have Galarian Moltres V now at this point, but
Yeah, it's almost
uh,
become a staple.
yeah, the Roaring Moon, it feels like there's just a
It's
bit of
like
a question mark
the
on
new
that
Lost
deck.
Box.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
mean, just a ton of energy acceleration with the
And a
possibility
ton
to,
of draw power.
yeah, ton of draw power, ton of energy acceleration with the possibility to utilize different types of energy. Maybe it's time to put down the Lost Box, pick up the Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon Kyogre?
Okay, okay, okay. Calm
It's
down there,
possible though,
buddy.
right? You deck out,
Yeah.
recycler,
How are you
energy
putting the
switch,
energies on the
energy
Kyogre?
switch.
Oh my god.
We have
Or
those in there in most builds anyways.
yeah, but you're using them early game to do other things that
Also, you can maybe just put down Kyogre ahead of time. You're kind of like a 2 prize deck.
you bluff the
It's
Kyogre, bench Kyogre, attach energy. They're like, boss.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you're probably okay with them getting a 1 prize knockout, right?
Yeah,
It's
sure,
like you win
sure, sure.
anyways on the next turn. Hey, just a thought. If we have the water energy in there already, add a
Oh my
recycler, we're
gosh.
cooking. Hey, try it out.
Let's take a look at the results overall from Charlotte. Looking at the top 8 decks, of course, we already talked about it a little bit. It was Vinny Fernandez, aka, is he still War Expert on Twitch?
I have no
I
clue.
think he might be Vinicius Fernandez on Twitch now. That was his OG Twitch name, I know. But yeah, Vinny, great player, online tournament grinder, and he gets the big win, largest regionals ever, 10K for first with the good old Lost Tina.
I mean,
And pretty good, solid looking list, right?
yeah, I guess like the big things to point out is on the Pokegears, over the Ionos, no Manaphy. And then I call it the Alberto Conti switch count, which is just the 4 switch card, because I feel like Alberto's the one to have initially popularized that. But those are like the big things that stand out to me. What are your switches? Do you play the Manaphy?
Yeah.
And then also has the Avery in here. Even though it does have the Pokegears, has the Avery in here as well. We usually, I feel like that is what Bradner was running as well, was the 2 Pokegear and the Avery. I was saying, I feel like it's usually like 1 Pokegear plus Avery, but I could be incorrect on that. And then Bradner also did make
Yeah.
top 8 as well, so we had Oh,
Bradner
shoot.
in the top 8, and
Yeah.
then Russell Montiero also in top
Three
8 with Vitina.
Tinas
Yep.
in the
So
top 8
Bradner will pull up his list here. He did have the Manaphy, had the Spiritomb as well, so
for the
was teched a
Muse.
little more for Mew than with the Avery, which is more of a tech for Gardevoir usually. Now Avery can
Yeah.
be good against like stuff like Avery. Honestly, is pretty decent against Mew at times.
Yeah, if you can, like, kill their bench and then KO a Genesect or something, or KO Mew with Star
Mhm.
Requiem, that, like, takes 3 Pokemon off their board.
And Bradner had the
Um,
3 switch, 2 switch cards.
yeah, 3 switch, 2 switch card. Also, I guess Vinny did play the 3 water, so playing more heavily into
Yeah.
the Greninja attack, the Moonlight Shuriken.
Which, funny enough, in top 4 when he was against when he was against Gustavo, he could have destroyed Gustavo with a Greninja because Gustavo just his hand didn't play out for him to be able to
Yeah.
go get Manaphy. It was just kind of one of those like not putting Manaphy down, holding my breath, and then he prized 2 out of his 3 water, and they were his top 2 prizes as well. So he just like didn't
Never got
ninja
it
the
together.
entire game. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, not too much different, right, between this list and has the more text, I feel like Manaphy plus the Spiritomb, whereas in Vinny's list we saw either of those, we saw like the fourth path and stuff like that.
And then Russell's list here did have the Drapion as opposed to Spiritomb, so still tech for Mew. I do feel like a version like this, like just pretty much. Well, I don't know. Drapion is interesting in Tina because you only play Path,
Yeah.
and Mew also plays Path, right?
Yeah,
So it's
it can.
pretty difficult to use the Drapion. I feel like unless you're like doing it very aggressively.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there you could utilize it like turn 1 for 2 prize cards.
Yeah,
It feels a little bit weird to be that aggressive though. Okay, when a 2 prize Pokemon, Mew's usually not too concerned if you do that. But then they can Iona to like 1 really
unless it's
early.
like Fusion Mew, right? Because
It's better against Fusion Mew, I feel like, for
yeah,
sure. Well, I mean, but the thing is though, if they know your answer is the Drapion, then they can just like time their paths accordingly. And they know you can't bump it and use Drapion, so then it becomes, I mean, you could Mirage Gate to it still, I guess.
sure,
But like that's
it's a pretty big
pretty tough,
commitment.
especially if they're judging you and Ionoing you and stuff. It's gonna be pretty hard to pull off. So the Drapion's interesting. Also, you don't get kind of the dual value that Spiritomb gives you. Spiritom's not only good against like Charizard, actually, if you have the bench space, but it's also good against control, right? Like you already have a good control matchup. It's definitely favorable without Spiritomb, but hey, can make it harder for them. I guess I don't know how much the Rotom actually gets used in that matchup because of paths, but you sometimes want to save your paths for their stadiums. You want to get rid of their Sinnoh so you can use Jet and all that stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's really I feel like what Path is more useful for. Um,
So I
eh,
feel like Spiritom's got to be helpful against control at the very least in that matchup.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we did see Vinny play Cal on stream in round 13, and game one was honestly kind of close, and Cal had a decent shot to win. Cal maybe got a little bit unlucky with just like the sequence of cards, how Vinny drew his switch cards like
Yeah.
around the Misfortune Sisters at the end of the game, but that's, that's part of it. It happens, right? Um, but, and then, and that was without the Spiritomb. But yeah, all 3 of these lists pretty similar. I think one of the other big standouts is that Vinny did play the 4 Path to the Peak. Both Isaiah and Russell played just 3. And I think if I was to play Tina, I would definitely lean into the 4 Path to the Peak. I feel like,
Yeah, I like four path. You just being able to spin like I feel like when you play three, you need to be like more timely with them to make sure you don't waste them. So you need to have like those bigger turns with them.
and if you have 4, you
Um,
can be more aggressive and force your opponent
yeah.
to have answers earlier.
Yeah, because like sometimes you are in situations early where it's like, ooh, I kind of want to throw this path out there, but if they do have an answer, it feels like a waste of a path, and I should have saved it to combo with Roxanne. But when you have four, you're just like another one,
Right,
like,
right.
and it feels the same way, and it even feels the same with Arche. It feels like the same with path decks in general, to be honest. Even with Arche, even with DTE Mew with the 3 to 4 paths,
Yeah.
I miss that fourth path sometimes when I played it with 3 paths. I'm like, bro, if I just want to be able to chuck these things out there aggressively, but you can't do it as aggressively if you have 3, and then if you prize one if you play 3, or if you lost on one is Tina. The other variants to be added into how much path you'll actually have access to is the loss zoning between Kolsch and Comfy. It's probably a little bit meta dependent too. It's like how popular is Charizard and Guardian,
Hmm.
right? And that maybe dictate how many paths you want to actually run. But
And then if we look at the rest of the top 8, so we had 3 Giratina and then 5 other unique decks, which is always cool to see. Like, I like to see some variety. It feels like a lot of people like to see variety, right? And I appreciate it as someone that, like, when we're choosing matches on stream, right? It's like we don't really love putting like the same matchup twice in a row on
yeah,
stream because it just feels like more of the same a lot of the time. We want to provide variety, so it is nice whenever we have that in our top 8. And Caleb Rogerson, local player from North Carolina, representing for Charlotte Regionals. did get the second place finish with the Charizard and Azul. I feel like this list looks pretty similar. Looks pretty familiar to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this is actually the list that I posted on my YouTube channel like 2 days before the event. And Caleb said that he, just took it from there and like played the exact 60
Yeah, I
that
think
was on
Caleb
my.
even tweeted that he played the same artwork that you had in your list, like
Yeah.
down to the T, the same 60.
Yep, exact same 60. So yeah, Charizard's still pretty good. Wasn't as hostile for Charizard, to be honest, as I thought it would be. Not just based on Caleb's result, but playing in the tournament myself. It just didn't seem as hostile toward Charizard as I thought it would be. Um, and yeah, Caleb just took that list, and I thought like the changes that were made to the list, that I had made, the Radiant Charizard, the Choice Belt, um, I
No
think they
Lost
ended up
City.
being pretty good. I think just kind of randomly, the Radiant Charizard was that much better because of how popular Roaring Moon was. Because Radiant Charizard is really, really powerful in that matchup,
Yeah.
and the Miraidon matchup. To be honest, it kind of locks those matchups up. So they go from favorables to being like, how do you ever lose these matchups, right? So yeah, I mean, it was just kind of cool to see. Not to take anything away from Caleb's run at all or anything like that. For sure, it's way always more so the pilot than the
The
actual list. You can
lists.
go copy a 60 that just won a tournament, or like Caleb did for here, taking the list that I posted on YouTube. But if Caleb doesn't play well, nothing else really matters, for sure. But yeah, it was definitely cool to see in the end Charizard getting close. It was very, and the finals was pretty close as well.
Hey, not only did it get second place in Masters, but I heard it got first place in seniors, right?
Yeah, first place in seniors. Justin took the list as well and took it all down with the with the same 60 as well. So it almost took down uh, Masters and seniors. Yeah, Justin was able to get there in seniors.
What happened
Caleb
in juniors
almost.
this weekend?
I have no clue.
Jose
I didn't even know the lists
Cruz
were here to see.
with Urshifu. Yeah, this is how I always
Urshifu.
check the seniors list. You can also find them on Arcanine. It's a little more difficult to do. I did see this that Cloth got second place in juniors, which honestly you just love to see, you
I
know?
think there was like a couple Clough. I think there's 3 Clough in top 8. Is
Yeah.
that what someone told me?
I don't like to use this list that this website that often because it doesn't show you all the Pokemon half the time. Like you can see, there's no Bibarel pictured right here, but
Are you
this
sure? Are you sure there's Bieber on
oh,
there?
almost
There's no
certainly.
Electrode either.
Yeah. So that's the bigger missing piece. I'll show you how
Hey, when I
to.
tested Clough initially, I played without Electrode. I had just
Yeah,
Clough. It felt pretty good. It felt pretty good.
I'll pull it up on Arcanine Labs. I'll show you how to do it in a
Okay.
second. But yeah,
Um, but yeah, Charizard. I mean, Charizard's still doing pretty well overall. Not as much hate towards it. I think moving forward, we're not going to see that much hate towards Charizard either. I think maybe it's kind of gone through that phase. And it is the most popular deck, but it feels like people are comfortable in their matchups or are just like understandably taking a bad or unfavorable matchup to Charizard. It
so
feels like.
I'll show you this, but I'll show it to anyone else watching at home as well. So if you go to Arcanine Labs and you go to the tournament page for the event that you want to see the results for the younger divisions, you just go up to the URL. It's, by the way, super jank that this is the way you have to do it, but all the information is on the website. They just don't have it like super easily accessible. So you just go up here and you type in roster. You replace the word tournament with the word roster in the URL. It'll take a minute to load, and then it'll present to you the roster with the final standings,
Yeah, and
and
this
you
is
can
fine because I
see.
assume if they didn't want anyone to be able to get here, they would lock the page. But
Right.
yeah, you don't worry, you can go here, it'll be fine. I don't know, maybe this leads to them locking the page. Who knows?
Oh, should I not show this?
Hackerman Chip out here
I mean, come on.
exposing the leaks. I mean, I've never seen or done this before, but that's pretty cool that this is
They didn't
available.
play
I
Bibarel,
mean,
by the
this
way.
is how like Robin on Limitless and Wilson for PTCG Legends gets all the deck lists, I assume.
Somewhere along the
Um,
way. I mean, it
well, I
is.
think
No, Arcanine Labs is open source. Like,
yeah. Like I'm saying, like limit. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure Robin auto populates the decks onto Limitless. Like it's like day two. Like I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Robin is manually inputting 200 lists for Charlotte, so he auto populates it from Arcanine for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I wish I was more, but like that's one of those things where I wish things were more easily accessible. This kind of information not being super easily accessible, um, is annoying. But like once people figure out about the right sites, it seems fine. And if you're in the know, you know. I'm actually gonna give myself a shout out here in my personal Discord that I use for my content stuff. I actually created a resources channel where I've started to compile literally all of the resources you'll probably ever want to know as like a competitive Pokemon TCG player. I still have to like fill it out and clean it up a little bit, and there's still more stuff to add, but I started to put it together because there isn't. I realize there's not like a hub for this kind of sites, so I created it in my Discord channel. So join my Discord, the sewers. You can maybe search it up on the search function on Discord, or you can get the link on any of my like
Yeah,
YouTube channel or Twitch or anything like that.
or on his Twitter.
Yeah, so go there. All the resources are in the resources channel in my Discord, where you can find literally everything.
Well, let's get back to Charlotte here and talk about the rest of the decks in top eight. Vinicius Fernandez was not the only Brazilian in top eight. We did have Gustavo Wada playing in cut as well. By the way, this top eight was just like crazy stacked, right? Like, we've got,
I feel like people say that all the time.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of really good players in this top eight.
Yeah, but haven't we? But like, what is the? I mean, I guess maybe
We
is it
we
is it?
definitely have top eights where it's like 5, 6 people that like you've not really heard their names before. Like that happens,
Of course, of course. And I mean, I'm not going to make the argument that those are less stacked because they are less stacked. If you haven't heard the names before, like you have to prove yourself to be a great player. You could be as good as Gustavo, but until you prove it, nobody really cares. I don't care. I don't think anyone
Yeah.
should care until you prove it.
But
Proving it is definitely important.
you've got like Ross Cawthon, who's like
Of
could
course,
be
yeah,
an
yeah.
all-time great. Alex Szymanski and Isaiah Bradner, two of the
You know what?
top
All right, I agree. I
North
agree.
American
Yeah.
players. Come on, buddy.
Yeah.
Gustavo Wada is a world champion, and he decided to play Gardevoir this
Yeah, I think
past
this top eight's
weekend.
really cool because we got the Brazilians in there, and then the Canadians are just outside of top cut. We've been holding them at bay consistently. Good job, America. Shout out to Brazil for coming through as well. We've been
Yes.
holding the Canadians back pretty consistently these last couple events. I haven't heard them saying anything on Twitter since they stopped winning, so we've been holding them back. Congrats, good job, everyone who's not Canadian.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. All in
uh,
good fun, by the
Oh, and
way.
good fun. Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, sure. Really stacked. It was really cool to see Ross get there with not a Ross. No one would look at Roy Moon and call it a Ross type deck, but Ross just likes doing different stuff, man.
It's not something that's popular. That's
Yeah,
like what Ross is known for, is playing things that are not the norm.
and not the normal way to play the Roaring Moon as well. It's cool. It's cool to see Ross can still do it. Right, shows up biggest regional of all time, kill Orlando or Indiana, I'm sure, or NAIC. But yeah, Ross showing up and doing it again gives me hope for the future for myself, to be honest. 'Cause at some point, I feel like, I mean, Ross.
You're gonna be a Ross someday.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been playing as long. I have not been playing as long as Ross has, but I'm getting up there now. During the years played, years grinding the game consistently.
Well, let's look at Gustavo's. Let's go in order here. Let's look at
Go ahead. Go
Gustavo's
ahead.
Gardevoir list.
Is there anything crazy?
He's got the Turo in here. He's got 4 path bumps. The one worker, lost vacuum,
Yep. The 4 bumps.
artisan plus collapsed.
Double research. Pretty heavy on the consistency then overall.
Yeah, overall pretty heavy. Only 2 candy. 3
Ooh,
level
no
ball.
Cresselia, actually. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, no Cresselia, just the Scream Tail, the little Munchkin, the Zacian as well. No Luxurious Cape or anything like that. Nothing like super crazy.
And
I
that
don't think
does
there's
hurt
anything
the.
very surprising in this
Well,
list.
the lack of Cresselia is interesting to me because I feel like that hurts the Tina matchup a decent amount. I feel like Cresselia is really good against Tina.
Sure.
Because they can do like the things that you're like most scared of is them just being like Greninja both your shiny Arcanas, and you're just like, I'll Cresselia. I'll start to move the damage off with Cresselia. But you don't even have that option here from Gustavo, so Gustavo definitely has to take a more aggressive approach. And even then, the Scream Tail is potentially limited from like poke damage on early Tina's early, because if you're up against someone like Bradner with a Manaphy, that's where I want to go with that. But yeah, nothing too crazy. I guess like leaning, but I guess the interesting thing is the double research is like the most interesting. Just like leaning more a little bit heavily into consistency. Overall, still only has 2 candy. But when you're seeing that many more cards, that could be the difference maker of getting that candy Gardevoir off. But I feel like still most games you should probably do in the range step, even though you got the candies in there.
Yeah.
Or even though you have the researches in there, you can see more cards.
And then we had in top 4 Ryan Miller with his Miraidon deck, his Iron Hands deck.
Iron Hands deck. Yep.
And this was a pretty interesting one as well. 3 peony, 3 research, right? Usually we
Mhm.
see peony, and then like, the peony build will play 1 Raihan or 1 Arven,
Yeah.
right? And then a few boss. Or you'll see the research build, which will have researches and then Judge Path or just a bunch of Iono, and then, the bosses. But Ryan's list here is really just focusing on the aggressive part of the supporters from the 2 lists, right?
Yeah. And then has like the when everything's going together, I got it all going. Let's just research. Let's draw some cards. Or like, oh, I just need some generators here. We got the peony. So you have like both the best of both worlds. You're not including the Iono part. So yeah, just the aggressive side of everything. Heavy on the EXP share, which I think has kind of been discovered as like the decks what the deck was missing. I think me and my group had the same thoughts with that as well. I mean, saw Nick Moffat had the EXP shares in like the Path build at Portland. And yeah, the EXP shares, I've been a big fan of them and riding for a while now. And yeah, I think they are the missing piece. And we see uh, Ryan here, going the extra mile, 3 EXP shares and 2 town stores.
Yeah, really wants to get those in play.
And it really is the big difference maker. Like when we were testing the Tina match, it was like, oh, if you get the EXP shares down, you just beat Tina. If you don't, it's close. It's kind of sketchy. If you don't like run over them early, if they stabilize and you don't have EXP shares set up, it gets kind of sketchy. If you got the EXP shares in play, you just kind of win. That's like a big one for those. And also, it like gives you such a stronger route against Charizard as well. Being able to
Hmm.
retain a couple energy makes a huge difference going into the late game, for sure. So I really like this list. I really like the list. You have the because sometimes you do just want to see cards and you don't really care about finding your generators just quite yet or anything like that. And also the Pokemon catchers, like you mentioned, that was the deciding factor in the
Yeah, top 4 or
top
top 8 game.
top 8 match to get to the top 4. And the Pokemon catchers are sick. Me and my group actually ended up running one Pokemon catcher ourselves, because when we were coming down to it, it was just like, well, I guess the biggest thing that drove that behind it is like I had tested Pokemon catcher in like a energy sticker build of Miraidon, like just flips.
Yeah, like a silly
And I
deck.
was like, the catcher is just insanely good in here. I was like, this is just good. Being able to go peony for a catcher and possibly win the game on a flip is just insane.
Yep.
So when we were trying to like fill out the last couple slots on our list, someone brought up the boys list and was like, let's play 4 catcher. And like, no, none of us were like, yeah, let's do that. We're all like, no, but what about 1 catcher? And then we end up with the 1 catcher. And yeah, it was really, really good. And yeah, Ryan, going all the way top 4 with some catchers, kind of probably proving it for sure that, yeah, a couple catchers, we can just peony for a catcher. It's just like, it's pretty sick, to be honest.
Yeah, pretty
So I
cool
really, I
list.
really
Yep.
like this build. I think it's a really, really, it just seems like a really, really refined build, and for all the things that like Murata felt like it was missing or needed to emphasize a little bit more. Heavy EXP shares, catchers, peonies, but also some researches. Yeah, it's a really sick list for
So as
sure.
someone who played Murad onto this tournament, like you think if you knew about this build, you would have played something more similar to this with this similar supporter count?
I would have to have tested it. I don't like the 2 boss,
Yeah, sure.
but compared to like the list that me and my group ran, we didn't play the Luminion, and I honestly did not miss. I would have
You
never used
didn't play Luminion? I thought
No,
you. Oh, that
we
was
cut
okay.
the
Okay.
Luminion. That was our catcher slot. I really like the 3 raw boss. But I could see like, yeah, Luminion. I never missed the entire tournament. I could see still like potentially it being better than I gave it credit for. I personally didn't miss it the entire tournament. I don't know how the rest of the guys felt after the end of the tournament, but I definitely would have really just looking at this, I really like it. And I definitely would have given it a shot for sure. I would like to have ran some games with it and see if I think this is better than what we ended up playing. 'Cause like I said, I like all the ideas in this build for sure. 3 HP share, double catcher, sure. Like 2s, maybe. I wouldn't go like up to 4 like Lee Boy did in Portland, but like 1 to 2, I can definitely love that. The only thing I would definitely change is I'd definitely cut the Raichu for a Super Rod. I think Super Rod is definitely better than the second Raichu, but everything else I love. And I would say if anyone's looking to pick up Miraidon again or wants to know where to go next with it, pick up this build. Put the Raichu for a Super Rod is the only thing I would personally recommend. But yeah, as all the ideas I think are all really sick.
And then I think I don't know. Is this the most unique deck in top 8? I'm not sure. It's really hard to identify what the most unique deck in top
Oh,
8
we've
I
seen
guess
this
would be.
before.
We have seen it before, but we've seen kind of everything before at this point. And
I
I
feel like
guess
I would give it to the Miraidon over this.
sure, sure, sure. Okay, well we did have Alex Szymanski. I don't know. Radiant Charizard. It's interesting, right? Because Fontenot won the regionals with it,
Yep.
right? A little bit of hype behind it. The double devolution, very solid into a Charizard heavy meta, right?
Hmm.
Um, but it's like it did. He won that regionals with it. A couple people played it at the next one, didn't do super well. It's been falling off the map.
Even Christian, I feel like I wouldn't say struggle. I don't know if he like played poorly, but he didn't have like a great follow up finish as well. So,
He got like
because I
top
feel like
64 or like 70th or something like
yeah, because I
that.
feel
Yeah.
like some people like get a top 8 with like a weird list, and then they come back and like top 8 again with it,
Hmm.
then they can like prove the point, right?
But
Um,
regardless, Alex Szymanski here, top 8 with the Radzard. And he was
yeah,
the first
maybe
seed
back.
going into cut. He had like 37 match points going into the round 15 or whatever. Was debating conceding to Bradner as opposed to just taking the ID. Did take the ID. And then maybe got a little unlucky that it was Miraidon in the 8th seed. I don't know if that's necessarily. It probably is slightly favored for Miraidon, right? Especially like double Iron Hands. I feel like if Ryan Miller had there was a situation in the second game. Ryan Miller lost game 2, but he had to discard his second Iron Hands, and if he had just had access to making 2 Iron Hands,
Super odd.
super odd, exactly, he probably would have won that game, right? But yeah, regardless, Alex Szymanski, top 8 with the Radzard,
Yeah.
Sablezard.
A tweet from Alex after the event was unbelievable that I choked this event. It should have been the freest run of all time. I made some bad plays and got punished. is what it is. Longer tweet after I make it to my flight. So definitely he feels like he could have gone further, and poor play was the thing that led to his downfall. Is what he feels like in the end to stop the run. So who knows where the potential with the Radzard was? We could have seen another Radzard dub. Definitely has a good Tina matchup. I'll say that. I think it has a pretty good Tina matchup for sure. The Charizard matchup is sketch. The Marta matchup I think is definitely tough as well. But it really just comes down to like drawing the Raihan to like get the response KO on the hands or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, I mean, I think Radzard's like fine. I would want to like play with some of its matchups more. It definitely has some tough matchups, and yeah, it's like not like a deck. It's not a Tina or a Charizard or a Gardevoir where I feel like they can power their way through anything. I don't think Sablezard can quite do that, but it doesn't mean it's a bad deck, you
Right.
know? Or even like a Miraidon. I feel like a Miraidon can power its way through. It's like, oh, this kind of looks sketchy. Oh, they got Turbo Iron Hands and I can't respond to it. Well, I guess they just win, right?
Yeah.
Radiant Charizard really doesn't have that as an out like some of the other more powerful decks do, but it's good. It's solid. There's a lot of like there's a big steep learning curve to it though. I think in its matchups for sure. So it is like a tougher deck to play, but I mean, it's a solid deck for sure. I don't think anyone would. And maybe it's the best way to play Lost Zone besides Tina.
Then we've got Ross's Roaring Moon here. We talked about this a little bit. Yeah, it looks just like a solid, straightforward, consistent list, right? Trekking shoes, 4 energy switch. No water energy or anything like that. Just really focused on attacking with the Roaring Moon, the Moltres, the Morpeko, sometimes the Mew, right? But
And I
yeah,
think that makes sense when you have only 2 vessels in the deck. I think probably sticking to just Dark Energy makes a little bit more sense when you don't have as much access to the different energy types by playing like a 4 vessel
I
build.
think he did change something from Portland. I think he played 4 Pokestop in Portland and has the 3
Ooh,
stop,
got the
1
town
town
store in there.
store. Yeah.
I mean, you can't just mill that jelly. You gotta find that thing.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
jelly apparently is the key to the Tina matchup I learned.
Okay.
Like being able to prevent the Sableye and the Cram response to
Sure.
your frenzied gouging
Sure.
apparently is the key to that matchup, is what I was told, which makes sense. It actually makes sense there for sure. Also, I mean, that's kind of cute. I don't think this really matters too much, but if you jelly your Moon and frenzied gouging and they don't KO it, you can then attach the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule and frenzied gouging again and not knock yourself out. I wonder if
Is
Ross,
that does that math check out?
I don't know, run it for me again. I think yeah, it checks out. You live with 10
Yeah,
HP.
2. Okay, yeah, yeah,
You live
yeah.
with 10 HP.
Wow.
I don't know if that matters at all, but I was like, ooh, that's kind of like I did the math. I was just like thinking
I
about ways to
promise
use
you,
jelly.
Ross has done that math. I promise you, Ross knows
I
of
wonder if
that.
Ross
Yeah.
did that in tournament. Ross,
Who
if you're
knows?
out there, I would love to know. Have you done the jelly into Ancient Booster Capsule Double Frenzied Roaring Moon
Insane
play?
play,
This
insane.
play will beat all of your 2 prize matchups.
You only got to come
Um,
up with better clickbait than that, buddy.
Whatever. Dominate Charizard with this jelly
Yes.
booster cap with this jelly play.
Dominate Charizard with this applesauce packet. Charizard hates applesauce.
It does look like one of those things of applesauce,
That's what I'm
doesn't it?
saying,
Yeah,
bro.
the emergency jelly.
And
Um,
then, yeah, that's all the top 8. We did have Makani Tran bubbling out with the Arceus. I think Cal was also at 36 minutes, or was it just Makani? I think maybe it was just
I don't think
Makani.
Cal. I'm sure Cal was
I'll
not on the
check
bubble. I
right
could be
here. I'll
wrong.
check right here.
I think it was just one bubble out with as Makani. Maybe Cal was up there as well though.
I'm checking right now.
But yeah, running it back with the control, Cal was.
Hmm.
I don't even know if Cal changed the card to be honest. I'm not. Oh, 4 Temple of Sinnoh. Never mind. Couple
He
cards
did have
never
the 4
changed.
Temple of Sinnoh.
So
Yeah.
cut the was it League?
League, Pokemon League 8Q.
Yeah, cut the HQs. 4 Temple of Sinnoh
Trying to give
for the
himself the best chance in the Tina matchup.
yeah. Shut down those Jets. Trap something in the active. Nothing a big deal in that matchup. The matchup's tough,
Which
but it
honestly,
keeps up the edge.
well, what happened
An
in
edge.
his I can't actually remember if this is exactly how it went down in Vinny's matchup, but it was like if Temple can stay in play long enough, they're eventually gonna have like jets without paths in their
And then
hand,
you Sydney
and
them.
then you can Sydney them.
Yeah. Oh, also yeah, had the double Sydney as well. I wonder if that is that a new inclusion. I don't know if
I
that's a
can't
new
remember.
inclusion. The Sydneys are also pretty good against Mew as well, because like sometimes they don't want to put an energy in play quite yet, and catch them with the Sydneys, catch them with the Giacomo, stuff like that.
And then yeah, Makani on the Arceus deck did have a 3/3 Bibarel. He's been playing 3/3 Bibarel. That's
I
thick,
think
right?
that's new.
I think that's new.
Also, I just want to check this real fast because this is like the one thing I brought up about Makani's list when I played it, or when I saw it, not played it. Oh, when I played it too. how are you gonna play an Arceus deck with 3 path, Makani at Portland? I was like, what is this? After I saw that, but the 4 path
He
is
took
in.
notes. He took
I was
notes.
like, bro, 3 path in an Arceus deck. I just like it feels so bad to only have 3 path. But 4th path making its way. Makani making the correct change. 3/3 Bieber, I like that as well. Like you want to set up that 2/2 Beeb.
Yeah.
It feels kind of similar to like
I feel like as
Chien
well,
Pao.
the last couple tournaments, I guess before this, consistently when I would walk
Ooh, the
by
Mawwile's back as well.
Makani's games,
Mm-hmm.
there would be like no Bibarel in play. Like when it was 2-2 Beeb.
Yeah.
You just don't find them quickly enough, and it's like you can find a spell for Arceus, right?
Yeah.
Or like for your Zacian to get your energy in play, whatever it is, right? But
Yeah.
now, 3-3 Bib, we're setting the boy up.
Just setting up hopefully multiple. We're hoping for 2/2 in play. Also V-Guards in there for the so respecting the Tina a little bit more with the V-Guards. No V-Guards were in the Portland list. Also Mawwile's in here for the cheese against Guardy. Against Charizard, it is a possibility as well. Although less good against Charizard, I feel like post
Portland.
Portland after I got top 8 with the Switch. I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
were playing some form of Switch in their Charizards, as you should. Moving forward, though, I don't know. There's no. Oh, another thing I guess we could mention about.
Did you see Joe Turrentine's list
Yeah,
with one of every single energy
yeah.
type?
It's funny for sure.
Yeah, it's a good meme. It's a good
It's good.
meme.
I feel like was there room for a Radiant Pokemon in here? Radiant Charizard? Play more fires, play Radiant Charizard? Was there space
It's
for
not a
that?
good meme though.
All right, my bad. But would we have made top 8? Joe, if you had the Radiant Charizard, if you're listening to this, where the Radiant Charizard had made the difference? I know you got a lot of path in there, but like, can I bump it?
And he's got
Um,
double lost vacuum in his list too.
Actually, could you look up Ryan didn't play the Tapu Koko, right? Actually, that's something we didn't point out.
Oh no, he did not. Yep.
Yeah, which I think is correct. We didn't. Me and
Yeah.
my group didn't play Tapu Koko. We're like,
I would assume most did not.
yeah, like I got top 8 in Portland with the Switch. Been preaching about the Switch. Most people seem to have picked up on the Switch, or more so picked up on the Coco.
Only one person in day 2
With,
played the Tapu Koko EX.
who was it? Was it Moffat still with the Coco?
No,
Or?
more than that. Sorry.
Oh, how's
4
that making
people in
sense?
day 2
4
played
people.
it.
Okay, Moffat was
Moffat
still running
Moffat
as
did
well,
have it.
which
Yeah.
makes sense because I think Moffat was still playing the Path Judge build. Which if you're gonna play that build, playing the Coco makes more sense. Because you can go Iono or Judge plus Path, paralyze them. They can't use Quick Search to find the out against the Charizard matchup. And the Coco can be good in other matchups as well. Coco's actually not bad against Tina as well.
Shoutouts to Solomon Surge with the Thunderous tech.
Thunderous. 2 lightning energy for what, 140?
140, yeah. It's a lot of
For
damage
one
for 2
prizer?
energy
What are we
for a 1
KOing with
prizer.
that? Are we KOing
Huh?
anything?
Whatever you want, buddy.
That's not how that works.
Huh? Yeah. Pumpay.
I mean, I guess it's like maybe better than using Raikou on the first turn of the Raikou Gig. I guess like honestly against Charizard. You go up there, get that first prize card with one
Oh, it
prizer.
KO's Pidgeot, bro.
Oh, it does.
It KO's Pidgeot.
So does Raikou.
This is 1 prize.
Yeah, but they have counter catcher.
True.
I don't know. I don't hate it though. I don't. You could go. I guess you are living a 1 prize, but they have counter. They're just gonna counter catch.
It all comes back to they have counter catcher.
I mean, they just do. I've
Yeah.
seen it.
I've seen it.
If people start running the 1 instead of the 2, though, then it like has more validity for sure.
One other thing I did want to mention about this top, 32-ish, a lot less Mew than what we saw in Portland, right? Just 3 Mew in the top 32.
We had more text from you though. I feel like overall.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the main reason.
Bradner
Also,
had the tomb.
Xander Perot, bro, with the 9-0 start.
Gotta call him out. Gotta call him out.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, that one is tough
Yeah,
for sure.
Xander lost some of his Mew knowledge, gave it all away to all of his students in those group classes. You got to keep some, Xander. You can't have too many group classes. You get burnt out on
Where
talking
did he
about Mew,
finish?
and then you forget how to play the deck.
Oh, buddy.
Oh no.
Oh, that's tough.
Not
That's
to call
a
him out further, but I wonder if that's the biggest 9-0 drop off.
chill,
He started off 1 and
bro.
4. I remember that.
10 and 5.
Yeah, I know I know that was a rough hit for him because I know he's been looking for that top 8,
That's
that next
tough.
top 8.
Yeah.
And I know it'll come around to him for sure. That is it is tough. 9-0 into.
Is there anything else here in the top 32 you want to call out? Not too much Charizard. There was a few more down at the bottom of this top 32. We did okay. Hey, one more thing to call out. We got Jarrett Gamilla with the Gold Dingo.
And speaking of
Top 32.
top 32, we could bring up I guess our predictions because that was one of our predictions. Highest placing Golden Goal Azul, top 32, chip top 8. What? The deck's cool, but it's not that good.
Oh, she was so close. She was so close.
How was Jarek up there towards the top tables?
He lost in like round 14, I think. But yeah, he was up there during the day and day 2.
Yeah.
And then I ID'd in the last round, I think, to guarantee top 32. He and Aiden Koos ID'd. instead of playing it out to try to get top 16.
What? I don't know about that.
But yeah, the Golden Go. Nothing super crazy in this list. I don't feel like being aggressive with the option of the canceling clone Greninja, cross
Yeah.
switchers. It's all kind of stuff we've seen, right?
Yeah. No melodic. But I think pretty much everyone's off the melodic from what I can tell.
No Avery, which is something you were talking about liking in this deck a little bit.
Yeah, but they have there's a canceling clone in there. It kind of has the same idea. It's like you play the
Sure.
Avery because they have to bench the mana fee. So even if they don't discard the mana fee, it makes their bench weird. Canceling clone just to immediately bring up the mana fee and then get the KO around it. So similar
Why are
idea.
we playing the continuous coin toss Gimmighoul? There's one that has Call for Family,
TM Devo
and I
against
think it has one less
Sablezard.
retreat as
TM
well.
Devo against Sablezard and what's the other one? There's one more Tina if they have the TM Devo. That's like the only reason.
Sure.
Against Tina, I don't think they have time to do that though. And a lot of them don't even play the TM Devo. Against
Also,
Sablezard, they definitely have the time. And
do
honestly, you just lose to Sablezard anyways.
you know what the real reason
We
might
should
be?
probably be calling for family. Do you actually have a reason?
Yes. It's because this is the one that had this full art. The only full art one is the one that has continuous coin toss.
Is Jarek? Does Jarek
I think that
playing?
Jarek was playing the full art Gimmighoul.
I don't know, I'm trying to call for the fam, bro. We're trying to get the squad out there. Yeah, I was running. I had been testing out with the call for. They playing the call for family one feels way better. Because I have been testing out with the call for family one. BMT's call for family. It only gets one squad, but that's one more squad than zero more squads. So I don't know. The math adds up.
One more squad than zero more squad. That's good news.
The math adds up. I
All
guess one
right.
thing I'll shout out Daniel with the Entei Iron Valiant. We haven't seen it pop up in a while. I don't think this changes my opinion of Iron Valiant Entei. I actually just think the deck is bad, but I think it's cool to see it still, pop up once again, get into the top 16. The deck's cool and the deck's fun, but it's
Feeling
cool to see.
frisky and fun,
It's just
baby.
cool to see it still be there. I guess. I guess that's how I'd put it. Like those decks kind of reoccurring, um, and especially going back to the Roaring Moon kind of getting its first breakthrough performance, I guess. One in top 8. There was 2 more in top 16, stuff like that. So it's just cool to see. Even the Golden goes, iffy. I think as far as a deck goes in the meta, but still seeing it, in the top 32 from Jarek and stuff like that. It's just sick to see a bunch of these um, more off meta decks continuously break through.
Let's finish our recap of our predictions. We predicted what we thought the most popular deck in day one would be. You said Giratina.
It's not even close.
I held true with the Charizard, and indeed it was the most popular deck. We already talked about that. And then over under one repeat top eighter. I need to look at it again. Azul said under.
Because I plan on being the only one. That didn't happen. But I
Yeah.
think it's 0, right?
No, did Bradner make top eight this season?
No, he got 9th.
Ooh.
9th, Shemansky. Ooh, does Shemansky got a top 8 this
0? I
season?
don't think so. Yeah, I think this is a fresh top eight this year.
Oh, man. All fresh faces.
Yeah, we've got several. I mean, Rogerson and Wada both have top 16s.
Go.
But yeah.
I need these people to pre-clutch up for me, bro. What the heck? Why couldn't we got in a top 8 here, squad? What's going on?
The closest one was Raymond Long
I
and
need
Cal.
Makani, bro.
Oh,
Makani.
Makani, Cal, and Raymond Long, all right there.
What are you
Yeah.
guys doing? Well, I don't know if I could root for Canada that hard. I'd rather lose prediction than Canada make another top 8.
Holy cow.
But Cal and Makani, bro, they were so close. All right, it was close though. It was a close one.
Well, you took the under, right? So you got it
No, I
right.
know it's a close one. We almost got
Okay.
almost got there. Next time, team, we got him.
Okay. And then yeah, like you said, highest place in Golden Go. I did predict the top eights. I was just feeling a little frisky and fun. And yeah, I guess after that, kind of just one big question. Moving forward at this point, 2 tournaments in a row, Giratina V-Star has won. Is Tina V-Star worthy of the title BDIF?
I mean, I guess probably right. I don't know. I like when I play the deck, I'm still not a huge fan of how the deck plays, but I don't know. We can't argue against the
It's
consistent
not really part of your
results.
play style.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, you got Bradner, top 8'd or got 9th earlier in the season. Didn't do as well at some of the last couple continued to play. Did pretty well overall, making day 2s. Hugar, doing pretty well overall as well. Consistently with it. Didn't have as good of a showing here as the last couple. You see Vinny showing up, great player. Chose to play the Tina, did well. John still got 19th after just winning Portland. The consistency is there with the deck from the players. Well, BDIF is weird. I don't BDIF shouldn't theoretically change based on the meta. So BDIF I think is still Gardevoir, the best deck in format, but the format doesn't change. it's always the card pool. I think it's still Gardevoir personally, but like, we can't really say that. But I guess you can, right? Because it has the meta changes. A deck could be like the best deck to play for like 4 tournaments in a row, but if it's an 8 tournament long meta, the last 4 could be like a bad play, right? That'd be fair. So
Sure.
I mean, they're all good. Like, there's a lot of really good plays. I think Tina's maybe the best deck to play right now. It's a tier 1 deck in the meta right now. But I would still give Guardy like BDIF. Like, I don't think BDIF changes throughout the meta as the meta changes
Yeah.
because there's format versus meta.
Well, speaking of decks and what decks people are playing versus maybe what decks people say they're playing, we can talk about the PokeStats Live situation. So, for anyone who doesn't know what PokeStats Live is, so PokeStats, I guess, has been around in the game for a long, long time. I think like 2016, 2017, somewhere around
It's
there,
a
right
ways, yeah.
whenever, the cash era kind of started. I think around 2016. Um, and it's always been, it's kind of similar to Limitless, like tournament reporting. For a long time, one of the things PokeStats did that no one else really did is they compiled like League Cup data across the country, and they also have a lot of information about like the Southeast Asia tournaments that a lot of other websites don't get really quickly,
Yeah.
um,
So it's kind of like it's
like
just like
Indonesia and um, like all that area, right?
the major tournament info, smaller tournament info. They don't really do the League Cup thing anymore.
But yeah. But recently, it's been widely used by many people for the PokeStats Live feature made by Jared Grimes, which is a tournament reporting or like tournament tracking, I guess, website where
Live tournament,
live
yeah,
tournament updates
updates.
during the event where players can report what they've played against, and then like if you or I was not at a tournament, or whoever's not at a tournament, they could follow along at home and see like, oh, X person playing this played against X person playing this.
And they're
So and so won
doing
this matchup. You can keep up with who's still in contention for top cut and stuff. The website you can see like, during the event, kind of what's going down, who's playing what. But it's all community done, right? There's no way to know for sure like what each person is playing. It's all like, people will play against someone, go on to PokeStats Live, and type in what they played against, and then that information gets
yeah.
tracked.
Well, the information that's out there that's like for sure correct is who's in the tournament, what their record is, who they're playing against, who they
Right.
played against, and like what their resistance is. Who's going to advance to day 2, who will be advancing to top 8, who won in top 8, and so on. So all that information, the matchups, is all correct. But like, there is the feature on PokeStats Live where you can report what your opponent were playing, and until recently you could also report, which I didn't even know you could do. And I thought it made sense that I just thought you
Well,
couldn't,
it
and it
is
made
right
sense
here.
that you couldn't. Is up until recently you could also report what deck you were playing. You could input your own deck if someone didn't already input your deck, and then these decks would be hidden during day 1, but would become public as soon as day 2 began.
And that was something PokeStats also did for a long time, is
Was
they
yeah
compiled day two deck data. And so like for years
of
and
players.
years, you know, PokeStats has compiled like these are the people in day two, and then this is what each person is playing. Like that's been on a thing that PokeStats has done like for a very very long time with day two tournaments.
Yeah.
And so for years, players when they are getting ready to go play in their round, they'll go to PokeStats, they'll check it out, see what their opponent might be
Find in
playing.
page, type in their
Yes,
name.
and then that way they can have a little bit more information going into their game. Now, there's been a big discussion around this, whether or not that is something that should be part of the game. A third party site tracking the tournament, giving players more information. And I saw a tweet from Eliza saying that, let me just share. Yeah, turn off. Oh, I just realized I shared our document. Whatever. I'm doing this on my laptop, so I don't have all my screens to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
everything.
Skip out here leaking.
Turn off self-reporting. Let PokeStats keep showing decks. There is zero reason player A with a large friend circle slash friends that scout should have an advantage over player B just because they don't have scouting resources. PokeStats evens the field. It's a great tool. Um, so like, it's a big in day two before like regardless of PokeStats, if you have a big friend group, you'll talk to each other and hear like, oh, X person's playing this, X person's playing this. But if you're just someone showing up to the tournament, you might not have that. You might not have that additional resource. So Eliza here saying that kind of being something that exists levels the playing field, gives everyone a shot to kind of know what they might be up against. I mean, what do you think about Azul? Someone who's been a top competitor for a long time, that information being something that's so easily available at every single tournament.
I mean, for me, it always like kind of just felt fine the way it developed. I don't really like. I kind of like how PokeStats approached it. Well, my initial thought on how I thought they approached it, where it was like, it's not available on day one, and you can't report your own deck. But apparently, you could the whole time. I just didn't know you could. You can't report your own deck, and then it becomes available to everyone in day two of decks that other people reported that they were playing. So I kind of liked that. I thought that was fine, kind of even the playing field a little bit. Especially for someone like me, a lot more people who know what I'm playing than I know what they're playing. So for me, it's like, okay, well, that just sounds like it evens the playing field more for me than anyone else, which, to be honest, I'm kind of fine with. But overall, I guess you could make that argument for that situation as well, where it's like, you could have friends who have been walking around and looking at stuff, but if you don't have those people um, to talk to or work with, I don't know. Like, all in all, it just evens the playing field. But if there are people on the site false reporting decks, how should we view that? I guess is like a big question right now.
Hmm.
And then is it one of those things where it's like maybe it's fine that that happens, but it's on you to on how guaranteed you take the data that's on PokeStats Live. Like how much weight do you put in? Oh, it says my opponent's playing Charizard. Do I choose second now, even though my deck usually wants to go first?
Sure. And the false reporting is what led to the bulk of the discussion this week. There was a player on Twitter in some thread of replies who made a comment about how they went onto PokeStats Live and selected that they were playing Lugia as their deck.
Yeah.
They were not playing Lugia in the tournament. They were playing Charizard in the
Yeah.
tournament. And by false reporting, they were trying to gain an advantage by picking a deck that their opponent would see that they were playing Lugia and choose to go first. Lugia is a deck that you would definitely want to go first with,
Yep.
first against with most decks.
Yep.
They were playing Charizard, which is a deck that basically always wants to go second. Like
Yeah.
in almost every matchup, right? Charizard wants to go second. So this discussion, kind of came up around, some people saying that this is based in like, you know, uh, this is someone using all the tools available to them to their advantage, to try to get as much of an edge as they can. But other people saying, this is, doing something to try to deceive your opponents. And that's kind of the camp I fall in. If it's literally, you can say that you feel like you're doing something to give you a competitive advantage, and you're doing something that gives you a
Yeah.
competitive advantage, but you're also lying, right?
Yeah.
Knowingly and
You're doing it
willingly,
with a
you are choosing
purpose.
to lie, choosing to try. The intent is there to try to deceive your opponent to gain an advantage, right? Which, whether or not that's against the rules, against the spirit, I feel like that's definitely against the spirit of the game. I don't know that it's necessarily outlined in the rules that something like that is explicitly not allowed, would be considered
Yeah.
cheating or whatever. But just to me, like morally, you know, I think approaching pretty much any facet of life with the mindset of trying to deceive or lie to get ahead and get an advantage is just not going to get you very far in life. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's my opinion on the whole situation.
I think I agree mostly with that. I definitely like I guess I'm like not 100% convinced to the idea that it's wrong morally, but it feels weird. Like I saw it and I was like I would never do that. It feels weird that they did that. And I guess that's almost like just enough for me to be like, yeah, then that just kind of makes it in my opinion more like morally wrong as well to do that. Um like usually that's what that feeling means. When you feel that way, it's like you do feel some way about it, a negative way about it. And it does feel weird and feel wrong that they went out of their way to do that because the other way they could have approached it would have been instead of setting their deck to a deck that wants to go first as opposed to the deck they were playing that wants to go second, if they just set it to Robo Substitute, which is like an option on PokeStats Live for like unknown decks, you can set it to Robo Substitute to just be like a placeholder. And if they do that, it's like I don't care if my opponent chooses first or second. I just don't want them to choose first or second based on
Based on what you're
knowing what
playing.
my
Yeah,
deck is. And if you choose Robo Substitute, they'll just pick first or second, which is best for their deck neutrally, not based on what the opponent's playing. So they definitely were like you could have if they had taken that approach. I would have felt less weird about
I
it.
agree. Yeah.
I would have been like, oh, okay, they just want to be like, I just want to sit down and have my opponent pick first or second based on their deck, not my deck.
Sure.
Now, of course, if they had just seen what they were playing earlier in the day and just knew that they just can, and that's kind of goes back to the thing of like, should we just even the playing field at that point then,
Also,
right?
sometimes you just like randomly sit next to someone and like recognize them and know what they
Yeah,
were playing,
yeah.
especially in day two. That happens way more often. Like you sit next
Well, a
to
lot less
someone.
now. Now they got like 200
That's
people.
fair. That's fair.
It's one of those things where it's like you could, if you're in day two, after you finish the first round of day two, you could walk around and like write down what a lot of people are playing. And it's like, yeah, anyone can do that, but they have to put in the work. Or should we just make it easier and give everyone access to it through PokeStats? And to be honest, the more that I think about it now, more discussions that kind of like popped up and resurfaced around this discussion happening was best of 3 versus best of 1. And should we have to check? How do we check our prize card? Like so many discussions I saw pop up
So
on
many
Twitter.
discussions. Yeah.
And my current stance on the prize card thing, because it popped up, which kind of leads back to this, is I'm currently fine with the
The
idea.
prize card thing, by the
Oh yeah,
way,
go ahead.
is that there's some people who think like there should be a rule that players at the beginning of the game, as soon as they do their first deck search, can just flip over and look at their prize cards. Take note of what those 6 prize cards are, shuffle the prizes, lay them back out to save time.
Yeah, yeah, to save time, just to like keep us playing more Pokemon. This is what I actually tell people when I talk about prize cards is like checking your prize cards really isn't playing Pokemon. And if you are the better player and the more prepared player, which you want to assume you are when you play against someone, then you want to play as much Pokemon as possible. So that's why being efficient with prize checking is so important. So you can find like all 6 of your prize cards in a timely manner. So you don't get like any kind of time penalties against you, slow play penalties, but you still know your prize cards. And that's why I think it is a skill to develop in the Pokemon TCG. Because if your opponent, like let's say you both spend 30 seconds checking your prize cards, but your opponent finds 2 of their prize cards and you find all 6 of yours, like you just have more information to work with for the rest of the game. Um, and I'm currently in the camp for that of if I had to choose, I would say I don't think we should let people just look at their prize cards before the match starts because the general player place is not proving that they actually check their prize cards at all. So I still want that advantage while people aren't going to be disciplined players and actually check their prize cards. I win so many games because my opponent pick up their deck after they play an Ultra Ball and then they're like, yep. And then they go back and then they misplayed and because they didn't check their prize cards, they thought something was there when it wasn't. They waste their Ultra Ball, they burn cards with the Ultra Ball, whatever it might be, and now they can't make a different play around it. So until people like prove that they are actually going to be a majority of the player base proves that they're going to be consistent with checking their prize cards and not having it impact their games as much, then I'm on the camp of I want prize checking to remain part of the game. Now, if Pokemon tomorrow came out and said uh, at the beginning of each game you can pick up your 6 prize cards and look at them, or look at them before you set them out, or whatever, some kind of change around that, I wouldn't really care. But currently, I'm not advocating for it because people do not check their prize cards. So I feel like it's just the people who are asking for to be able to pick up their 6 prize cards and look at them are uh, just want to continue being lazy and not check their prize cards. That's how I feel about it personally in the current situation, the current landscape of things. I think it's just people who just want to continue being lazy and not checking their prize cards or going through or learning a process and learning a method to actually checking their prize cards efficiently. And it's something I need to work on more myself actually
That
personally.
that I
But
think is where the biggest skill comes in, right? Because anyone can memorize 60 cards
yeah,
and take unlimited time and figure out what 6 prize cards are prized.
yep,
Some people it might take longer than others, and that's where the skill is efficiently being able to do it. And actually Henry Brand put out a kind of interesting video recently where he talked about this, about like the order in which he
yep.
feels like it's optimal to check like your energies and Pokemon first, because those are, I think that's what he said, right? Because they're like your highest counts.
Dude,
Um,
yeah, like literally if you play a
and then
Miraidon
check
deck
your
with
four of cards.
if you play a Miraidon deck, like when I go through when I first check and I do pull my Pokemon to the front, like I count my lightning, like for Miraidon, I count my lightning energy on my way through. Because if you prize like 3 lightning energy, that's half your prize cards. You're halfway there.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been checking my prize cards for a while. Um, I think Grant tells me,
Which Grant?
Grant Manley tells me,
Oh
he
gosh.
checks like Forest Healstone and an escape rope. And I was like, bro, you don't even count your lightning energy when you pass through your deck? It's like that's half your work. That's half the job is done. On your pass through, just count your energy. And he's like, I don't know, man. Is that important? And then he complains about being unlucky. I'm like, bro, I can't, man. I can't. Uh, but yeah, if the vast majority of player base was actually diligent and like sufficient with checking their prize cards, then I would advocate for just everyone look at their prize cards. But y'all are lazy, man. Y'all just gotta like y'all are just being lazy with it. Just learn how to do it efficiently. Um, yeah, because right now that's what it feels like to me, just like an excuse to not be or to continue to be lazy and not just learn how to do it efficiently. So That was one of the things that came up from that. There's a lot of people brought up everything, I feel like, around
Open
this.
deck
Yeah,
list.
open deck list, closed deck list, like everything was brought up around this, like maybe not all of it just on the PokeStats thing, but like after this weekend, everything was brought up again.
Everything surfaced.
um,
Crazy weekend on Twitter.
yeah, but for the PokeStats thing, I don't know. I feel, and that, but so my point was that if I feel like doing the extra work for the prize card things, then maybe my opinion on, I guess they can be separate, but maybe my opinion on the PokeStats thing is that PokeStats should be shut down, PokeStats Live, and then you should have to walk around with a pen and paper and write down people's deck lists if you or
If you really
what
want that
if
much
you
of an
really want that
advantage.
information. But I think the more important part is to make the game more accessible and more of a something for people to want to watch and follow. So I think PokeStats Live should stick around just so people can go to PokeStats Live while the tournament's running and look at what people are playing and look at what matchups are happening and look what maybe some of their favorite players or top players and what they're playing and how they're doing,
Yep.
what they match up against. I think it should stick around simply for that purpose because it's better for the game.
It's better for the
Whether
game.
you like it or dislike it, um, as long as it isn't a uh, it removes competitive integrity, which I don't think it does really. As long as it doesn't like hurt competitive integrity, it is neutrally good for the game for people to be able to go to PokeStats Live and follow the tournaments with like live updates, like the way you can currently
Yeah.
on it. So I think overall we should just have it based on that. Like, and that's usually my decision for these kind of things is like if it's helpful for the growth of the game, it should stay and should exist. If it can hurt it and it seems kind of toxic, then it probably should go. If it can hurt it or it's neutral to the growth of the game. But I think PokeStats Live is only a plus or a positive in the ways of like the growth of the game.
Well, with all that being said, we can move on in the show. And before we get to our next segment, we do need to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. You guys know them, the best sleeves in the game. They make all kinds of other products as well, the deck boxes, the binders, the inner sleeves, the outer sleeves. You guys were telling us, I think it was on our Patreon, someone was telling us about a triple sleeved deck they had. Now, I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend that, but if you're crazy, you can do it. It's something that can be done
It's possible.
with the inner sleeves, the outer sleeves. If you want to use the ETB sleeves, you can use the Dragon Shield outer sleeves, right? That's what someone said that they really like to do. But yeah, we love to use just the regular Dragon Shield sleeves. What did you rock this weekend, Azul at Charlotte?
Had the tangerines, big fan of the mats as always, and yeah, I had the matte tangerines, and they served me well. I only resleeved once. Chip would be proud of me. Day one to day two.
Okay, okay.
I'd be hard pressed to never do that resleeve. That's what, like the one I'm
Yeah, sure. I
most
think
looking
that's
for.
fine. And it's not necessary to do. Azul's just,
It's just me.
it's just him.
I do recommend always checking your sleeves
Of
though.
course.
Like no matter what.
You can replace some damaged ones,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Wear and tear happens, of
You don't have
course,
to
throughout a
replace
long tournament.
the whole 60. But yeah, huge shout out to Dragon Shield as always, being a sponsor of the podcast. Check out the link in the description over on the YouTube side of things. To use our referral link, you can also use code UEPOD to receive 5% off and directly support us with any purchases you make over there at dragonshield.com. And with that said, up next we got Guess That Flavor Text. It is my week to pick a card for Chip where I will read the flavor text on the card and then Chip will try and guess what Pokemon that card belongs to. If you get it right without using any lifelines, you get 4
Wow.
points. For each lifeline you use, get 1 less point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name.
So we've got a viewer of the podcast. Shout outs to Tim and Games. They made a Guess That Flavor Text tracker for us, and they've been updating it. We've been referencing it to try to,
Yeah, shout out.
remember what cards we picked, all that stuff, and what the score is and all that. So shout outs to Tim and Games. The score is currently 16-11, but I just noticed from a couple weeks ago where you picked Barboach, instead of just writing that I didn't use any lifelines and that I got 0 points, they wrote stage, crossed it out because I should have guessed stage because I
Yeah.
knew it was either Whiscash or
Yeah.
Barboach. Then they wrote 3 for Chip and then crossed it out, crossed through. Absolute savage. Rescinded shout out
That's
for
actually that's pretty funny. What could have been? What could have been? It
what
was
should
right
have
there.
been.
You even said Barboach's name. You were like, oh, Barboach or Wishcash?
I'm sure it's not as bad of a punt as something you've done. All right, anyway, go ahead.
Well, I still got the 1 point on the ice cube.
It's your turn this week
All right.
to. Gosh, you finally are saying it right, by the way. You
Bar
remember you used
Wishcash?
no Ice Cube.
Oh,
Do
ice
you not
cube.
remember how you used to say it?
SQ?
SQ? Are you kidding me, man? SQ?
All right, look away so I can pull it up
Okay,
because I have it
okay,
up on my
okay,
laptop
okay.
here. So
Yeah.
I'll pull it up and read it, and then when we get into the other
Make sure they
things.
can't see it as well.
Oh, well, can you?
Well, let me see.
Oh, you're not looking.
I will look. No, I'm
No,
not
they
gonna
can't
look.
see it. Okay,
Okay,
you ready?
you're good. Yeah. Let's hear it.
There's a hole in its tail that allows it to draw in the air it needs to keep its fire burning. If the hole gets blocked, this Pokemon will fall ill.
I feel like you did this one like recently.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think so.
This sounds so familiar.
I'm pretty sure I have not.
Say it one more time.
There's a hole in its tail that allows it to draw in the air it needs to keep its fire burning. If the hole gets blocked, this Pokemon will fall ill.
Maybe someone came up to me at a regionals and read this to me. All right, let
They're
me.
leaking?
Well, is it on the screen?
No.
Okay, well, I'm gonna need some lifelines here.
Okay, well, bring it back up.
Okay. Let me go with what set the card is from.
Sword and Shield.
A hole in its tail. Sword and shield. Fire burning inside. The fire Pokemon in Sword and Shield is like Scorch and Sizzlipede. They don't have holes or tails. Well, I mean, I guess they have holes, right? They've got a mouth, right? Uh, and
I guess
I
it could
mean,
be
one of
like
my thoughts would
one.
be Numel, right? Like the hole, but that's not its tail. That's its back. Torkoal is another one. Dude, oh, I remember. It's Heatmore.
Locking it in?
Yeah, it's Heatmore.
It is Heatmore.
You definitely did this one.
No.
Someone did. Someone. I have.
Well, look it up. Just search
I
search
have
and
heard
page.
this recently.
Search and page. I don't think we've done this. Doesn't sound familiar to me.
No. Okay. Someone literally came up to me at a regionals and did
They
this.
leaked it?
Yeah, I
Oh
guess
my
so.
gosh.
Is that where you got it from? Maybe they did
No.
it to both of us.
That's not where I got it from at all. 3 points?
3 points, buddy.
Dude, it's this one.
I see it. Oh, never
Nope.
mind. I don't see it.
You don't see it. Dude, I like literally realized that I was tripping with the over under thing earlier. I thought like under 1.5 meant I had to at least have one.
That's what I knew you were tripping.
Yeah, I knew I was tripping because I was like, yeah, I need one. Oh, but
But it was
I just
less
won the
than you
prediction,
won
yeah.
the prediction.
Oh, sheesh. All right,
Well,
congratulations to me.
there's Heatmore with the hole in its tail. Shout outs to whoever read this to me at a regionals so that I could
Dude.
get 3 points.
But come read more flavor textures at me at regionals. Like,
You're
what the
not going to
heck?
retain the information. It doesn't
That's
matter.
Hey, I remember Darumaku or whatever.
You still aren't saying his name right.
Darumaku?
Darumaka.
Oh, Darumaka.
Anyway, we can move on to the Liverpool regionals coming up this weekend. Really busy month here for Pokemon. We had Charlotte this weekend, Liverpool next weekend.
Yep.
The weekend after that is Knoxville regionals, back to back to back tournaments.
Run it back.
Last regionals as well in Liverpool for this rotation, for this format, right? Rotation will happen
You mean in Europe?
in Europe. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Last tournament in Europe this weekend before rotation happens. Yeah, here we go. Liverpool this weekend. Based on what happened this weekend in Charlotte, what kind of shifts for the meta do you expect to see right away? Is Zard going to be the most popular deck of the tournament?
Probably.
Still?
Like it's already like because sometimes it feels like there's some decks that are I don't know if that's true, but more or less popular in Europe. It's like something that comes up. Like Arceus is one of the decks that I would always go. Guardy I think will be at 10%. Like I definitely predicted Guardy to be 10% at this tournament. It was 7.6. I think in Europe does like Guardy more. I feel like I think that's fair to say. I think we'll see 10% from Guardy. Will Roaring Moon be 9? I don't think Roaring Moon's going to be on the graphic again. I couldn't see that happening. I could be wrong. Charizard being number 1, or at least close to Tina, makes sense. Mew.
Oh, there's another tournament before EOIC, bro.
Well, I don't know. You're
There's
the
a
one who
tournament.
said it.
Well, I asked you before we started, and you're like, yeah.
I was like, that made sense to me.
Oh my gosh. There's another tournament in Europe.
Dortmund.
Dortmund regionals in February in Germany.
All right, Chip's bad. But yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar. I don't like. I'm looking at the day one meta. If you want to pull that up for them, take a look at it. We can just look at that and kind of go off that day one meta from Charlotte. Guardy, like I said, probably up to 10 from its 6.5. Mew will probably like. I think Roaring Moon just gets replaced, would be my guess, but maybe it'll be this number 6 at like 7%. It being 10% would be a little bit interesting to me, but yeah, I don't know if you feel any different about it. Do you think Moon is you think it can
No,
has
I
any
think it'll
staying
be up here.
power?
It'll be up here, but not. Well,
Do you think it has staying power?
honestly, Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
it is six. You think
yeah.
it'll be six, or do you think it'll be above Mew again? Because
I think it'll.
I don't think it beats out Maridon,
Well, we
Tina,
are
or
talking about
Zara.
Europe. So is it can it be above Mew? Like Mew is gonna be
True.
Mew's gonna be Mew, right? Well,
True.
I don't know that Mew is always the most popular in Europe, but it always
It's not
wins
that
in
popular.
Europe.
It does win. Okay, is that just a meme, or does it actually win that much? It actually wins that much, right?
It's won enough.
It's won too much. How much? However much it's
Any
won.
wins are too much. You can sort by region, by the way.
Oh yeah, true. I forgot that.
He's looking
Um,
on Limitless right now.
all right. Gdansk, Control, Lille, Mew, Barcelona, for sure. That would have been going from Mew to. Oh, Mew got second at the special event in
Mew
Turin.
stays in top 8 of European regionals, but Mew's in top 8 of our regionals pretty often as well. So,
You know what? It wins most of them. It wins more than anything else. That's close
oh
enough.
man,
Um, yeah, Mew. I don't know. I like Guardy's the only one that I would be confident saying is going to get more popular. Charizard being 17 again seems like a lot, but I mean it's been so popular for so long. Maybe it
I
stays. I'm
I
like kind
think
of lost.
I think this is when we're gonna see Tina overtake, right? Because
Well,
they've had.
hold on. This is like another thing though. These events are so close. Is there time? There's no
Well,
adjustment,
no,
right?
but I don't. I think that is why we didn't see Tina overtake in Charlotte
Are they going to work more off of like
compared to
Portland
yes,
results?
yes. That's what I'm kind of thinking, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
I'm gonna predict Tina's gonna be more popular in Liverpool, and then also I'll predict that regardless of what happens in Liverpool, that Tina will be the most popular deck in
In
Knoxville.
Knoxville, you're already going to lock that in.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, I mean I could see it. I mean, yeah, I think it should be right. I guess like the one thing you can always kind of go back to though, like it is a tough deck. Like, but we saw it be 16% at the first regional of the year in
yep,
Peoria,
yep.
right? It was 16%, the most popular deck by a decent amount. Um, so
And
we've seen
people
it
do
happen
like it.
once.
I mean, Dan Hugar, when he got top 8 in San Antonio, right? Um, one of the things he said in one of his winter interviews was like, I like playing this deck because it doesn't matter what I sit down across from. I
I can
know
win.
I have a chance to
Yeah, yeah.
win. Like I'm never like out of a game when the card gets flipped over.
It's kind of like the Guardy of this format, whereas Guardy felt like that last format, or maybe the format before, I don't remember. But Guardy felt like it was like, all right, I can kind of beat everything, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that definitely is that's what Tina is this format for sure. You sit down, you're like, I can kind of beat everything. Um, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I could see that happening. So Tina number one, Charizard number two. Who's number three then? Maridon, Guardy.
Probably Maridon.
Guardy number four, or do you think
I
Mew or Moon slips
I
in there?
think Guardy can come in right there at that spot, and then Mew, Moon, interchangeable there at the 6. That would be my prediction. I
Yeah,
think going
that's
in
fair. What's the next deck? What's number seven?
right off the list,
Is it
probably
Rapid
Rapid Strike
Strike? Is it
still.
Rapid
Yeah,
Strike? I don't know. I feel like it's fallen.
it
What
has
else?
fallen, but I think it's enticing to see
Well, Lost
those.
Box can't be far though, right? Because that's what Moon replaced kind of here is
Sure.
Lost
And then
Box.
the other thing too is I think for a while at the start of this format, people were like, "Oh yeah, Urshifu beats Miraidon." But like as this format has gone on, I think people have realized that's not necessarily the case.
Well, for the peony build
Yeah,
specifically,
the
I feel
peony
like.
build now that it's become more popular, Urshifu is way less enticing because the peony build can be so aggressive, and I mean, especially if they're playing catchers as well, right?
Yeah, they're
Like,
coming after you.
yeah, it feels like a tougher matchup, honestly, for
We're
the
going from Urshi
Urshifu.
Fu to Urshi Who on this.
Oh my gosh. Go home.
I feel like we keep seeing these Urshifu players have really good starts. I'm thinking back to Victor at San Antonio with Kreckler, or not San Antonio. No, Sacramento
Hmm.
with Kreckler. Really good starts. Fell off. Kreckler had a good start at this one as well.
Yep, he went 8-1
Um,
in day
I think
one.
we had some good players start. Like Riley is one I remember at San Antonio who had a really good start going into day two. And it's like the
He was
deck.
like 11-1-1 at
I
some
think the
point.
deck's inconsistencies like do catch up to it throughout how many rounds you play throughout a tournament. If we stopped after day one and we were into cut, the Urshis would be in their top cut spots. But it does catch up to it eventually. You start playing against the better players, punishing the slower starts from the Urshifu player, leaving opportunities and openings for the Urshifu players to punish you for making
Yeah.
mistakes. And then the inconsistency of the deck, I think you catch up to it over a 15-round tournament. Um, so yeah, I don't think it'll make it. I think it will be. I think Lost Box is probably number seven there, and could be on the sheet over Mew or a Roaring Moon
Well, what are
probably.
you feeling just kind of going into this weekend? You're playing in Liverpool. We haven't done this in a while. You want to do like top 2 decks or something like that
Sure,
that you
sure.
would play this weekend? We haven't done this we used to do
Yeah,
this like almost every regionals. I think one for me uh, would probably still just be the Charizard.
it's pretty good.
It is still just really good, and it does really good against some of the stuff that is picking up the hype, right? The Roaring Moons, and
Miraidon's kind of
the
making his
Miraidon
comeback.
is still doing well. I think I wasn't super in on Radiant Charizard for this weekend as much as you were. I know like you liked it a lot in your list. Obviously, that's the one you put out that you thought was good for the tournament, and it did end up doing well. But I think because Miraidon and Moon like inexplicably were way more popular than I think people expected it to be, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so like if that trend continues, I like Charizard a lot, probably for my number one pick. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, if Radiant Charizard becomes the norm in Charizard again, I think Roaring Moon's like unplayable. Like I think because they've cut it, it makes Roaring Moon like okay,
Sure, sure,
I can
sure.
beat some Charizards that don't draw everything or don't get those aggressive as starts. But if Radiant Charizard becomes the norm in Charizard again, I think Roaring Moon is he's just it goes back to being like it's a pretty bad deck. I think it's to go back to like the hands, which means you're not as consistent as something like the Ross build, stuff like that. But yeah, I think Charizard would be one of them. I think Miraidon's the other one. Like the meta, I think is gonna get better for Miraidon. I think we're gonna see more Tina, more Guardy. Good things for Miraidon. It's not gonna even get as good as I thought Charlotte would have been for Miraidon. It won't even get that good. But the Peony Miraidon build is just the deck's good. I think you're favored against Tina. I like decently favored against Tina. So it's like one of the few decks I think that is. I think Moon is also favored against Tina.
Yeah, that's what Vinny
Um,
said as well. He felt like Moon was a bad matchup.
but Moon is tougher into Guard 4. And I think Moon is actually tougher into Charizard. I think I'd maybe rather play Peony Miraidon into Charizard than the Moon. But it's pretty close because they both have a tough time. They both have a tough time against
Yeah,
Charizard.
well, you at least can just get off to the faster start with Miraidon with hands, really.
Yeah. I mean,
I
if they
think.
both if Charizard has Radzard, it's kind of bad for both of them
I
to be
think for
honest.
me, my second deck would probably be uh, DTE Mew, to be
Okay.
honest. It's not Fusion Mew, DTE Mew. I just want to draw cards. Consistent, burn through the deck, and cross my fingers that I don't play any Spirituals.
Got
I
some
would probably play like the Rob Vance Skelly list, something like that. Which,
yeah.
yeah,
Rob Vance.
the Rob Vance list.
Shout out to Rob Vance. That
I
sounds
said one person's last name and one person's first name.
yeah.
And like in the wrong order as well. Not
Yeah.
Vance Rob. Rob.
The ultimate Mew player, Rob Vance. I don't think sounds like a car salesman. Trying to sell you on DTE. That's great. You draw a lot of
Rob
cards.
Vance. Vance Refrigeration.
Is that Bob Vance?
Yeah,
Rob Vance, DTE Mew Incorporated.
yeah. Yeah. I would lean that direction. Just draw some cards and,
Yeah, you can't go
knock
wrong with
stuff
DTE
out.
Mew. I mean, Mew in
You
general.
can, you can.
Well, I feel like you. Well, I don't know with the Moon hype though. Can you go wrong? Maybe we are going wrong with Mew. To me, I didn't really factor that in. It's like, okay, Charizard has been 17%. We still see Mew's doing fine. The matchup's not terrible. Theoretically, Charizard is going to come down a little bit, but now with this Moon stuff going
Yeah,
on,
with the double box, I think
it's pretty tough.
it is definitely not a good matchup.
I thought it was
I don't
bad.
think it's as I don't think it's like 2080.
I think it might be with the Moltres. Because when we were testing it before
Sure,
LAIC,
sure, sure,
we
sure.
didn't have Moltres in our build. But we even like instinctively knew before then. It's like as soon as the Moltres gets involved, if that's a better way to play it, how do you deal with that extra energy,
Yeah,
that
the extra.
self-sufficient
Yeah,
attacker, the Forest Seal Stone for more consistency under path? I don't know. That might be honestly Europeans. It might be time to put the Mew down. They might even put it down.
yeah.
With Moon out there like this, how can you pick up the Mew?
Well, let's do our predictions here. Keeping with the trend of the Mew in Europe, will Mew win the regional championships this weekend in Europe?
Of course.
Okay. You're just locking it in right
That's a
away.
dub. That's a dub. Mew's getting there.
I think Zard is still a little too popular personally, so I'm going with no for the Mew to win. I think it just will get checked by the Zard a little too much.
Oh, but it's not the last one.
It is not its last regionals,
So
yeah.
maybe I say no because it'd be more entertaining if it won Dortmund.
Okay.
So they have to go.
We're going double no.
No, we're going yes. It'll win both. That'll be epic. That'd be insane.
Insane. Okay, over under. Oh, we didn't even set a line. Over under 1.5
I
Giratina
think it's having
V-Star.
2.5.
Okay, 2.5 Giratina V-Star in top 8. Over under 2.5 Giratina V-Star. Azul, what do you think? I can go first actually because I normally make you go first, I
All right,
guess.
go for it.
To make it fair, I'm going to take the under. No faith in the Giratina.
I mean, the question just is Alberto Conti going to show up?
Well, yeah, he's one, right?
Yeah,
And
he's
one
one.
other person can make it in.
What
And
are the
I would still take the
Europeans?
under,
What other Europeans play Tina? I gotta know what other European
A lot of
American
wild
team.
cards out
I could
there.
see Tord rolling up with Tina, to be honest.
So, like,
Let's
what
see.
if Tord plays his like lost pile with a 1/1 Tina? That doesn't count as lost
No, no, no,
Tina.
no, no,
Okay,
no.
okay,
No, it's the archetype lost Tina, archetype lost pile.
okay.
Um, I'm gonna go over. We're gonna go over. We at least have Alberto locked up. That's one.
And that's on par with what happened this weekend. We'll see if that holds true.
And that's what's gonna make it such an easy dub for the Mew.
Okay.
Literally
So many gear. That
beat
is fair.
Tina,
You're
beat
you're
Tina,
being
and then
consistent.
beats
Yep.
Alberto in the finals.
Ooh. Alberto
Mew.
Azul just doesn't
All
want to
right,
give it
my
to
this is
you.
my this is my. I've been doing this a little bit more. My in-depth, or what is it? What would you even call it? It's my crazy prediction of the tournament is Alberto makes finals with Lost Tina
Okay.
and loses to Mew.
Okay. Any specific Mew player?
And Alberto does not tech for the Mew. No Spiritomb, no Drapion. Any specific Mew player? I mean, to be honest, every time a Mew player from Europe has won, I've never known who they are. Not to say they're not,
Sure.
that's one thing actually like we've talked about is like when some North American players get top 8 or win in North America, me and you are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I'm sure there's a lot of other players around the world in other regions that are like, who the heck is this, right?
Yeah.
And
Like
when we look
yeah.
at European results, we're like, I don't recognize any of these names. I don't know who these players are. But I'm sure if you're in Europe, you're like, okay, yeah, that's a solid player. Them in top 8 makes sense. Them winning makes sense, Um, so person I don't know. Alberto loses to a Mew player in the finals to a person I don't know. That's
And
the
then
answer.
our last prediction.
But I do know them after they win.
Last prediction. What deck will Tord play to the tournaments?
Well, it can't be Mew because then I would know him when he beats Alberto in the finals.
I like how you're just like being as consistent as you can across your 3 picks. Like, I'm gonna make sure they all track. Nothing is, overlapping.
So to increase my odds, Tord's deck also has to lose to Tina and Mew, or at least be unfavored, probably.
You think
Uh,
Tord is gonna play a deck that's unfavored to Tina and Mew?
Maybe not, but Alberto could play him for sure with the Tina. I got faith in Alberto. So I really want to say Tord's going to show up with Guardy if Tord does show up. I know Tord was like planning to take a break over like the last month or so. Like I think he even tweeted out like not going to anything anytime soon because he was going to a lot of North American
He
stuff.
was in an
Although
event in China last
yeah, he was just
weekend.
in China, but that's different.
Yeah, sure.
That sounded like it was super cool. I wish I had had time to tune into that and see what they were up to because what format was it? It was like
It
Urshi and
was
Teleon.
team up through Chilling Rain.
Okay, yeah. That was pretty sick. That was cool that he got to do that. Let's go with the. Do you think he's gonna still be feeling Urshi and Teleon is gonna run it up in standard with Rapid Strike?
That's up to you, buddy.
Let's go for it. Let's lock in Rapid Strike. I'm gonna lock in Rapid Strike for Tord. He just couldn't get enough of the Urshifu, and he had to play it at Liverpool.
I'm
Then loses
going.
to the Mew in top 4.
I'm going with a definite lost pile here.
Another pile. Do you think it'll be different, or
Yes.
will it be just like
Yes.
a cleaner version of the Tina build, or
Well, it'll be something similar to his last list with like improvements, like a couple changes.
well,
It
yeah,
won't be the last 60,
but I feel like it was a really cool adjustment when Tord went from the no Tina to the Tina.
like the Palkia to the Tina.
Yeah, so from the Palkia to the Tina, so are we going to see something like no Radiant Greninja now, but plus Radiant Charizard? You think it'll be like that kind of switch up, or it'll be just be like
No, he's still gonna have Ogre and
it'll
stuff
just be
like
like a
that.
slightly cleaner Ogre Tina Moon build, Ogre Tina Moon hands bone.
Yeah, but I don't even actually know how much he could clean it up from what his last list was, to be honest.
I'm sure
So
he'll have some adjustments he'd want to
it'll
make.
be very. I bet it's like within 57 cards of his
Oh
last
yeah,
lost pile list, something like
that's
that.
reasonable.
That's
That's what
my
I'm saying, like 1 or 2 differences.
sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, Azul, I think that's all we have for our main episode this week. We're going to get into the bonus episode exclusively over on Patreon here shortly. But in the meantime, we do got to say, oops, did I just cut off my mic? I think we're good. Thanks so much to everyone for listening and the support as always. Go check out the new Uncommon Energy channel. If you haven't, go watch the Evolution series. We really appreciate all the support we've gotten over there already. And hopefully we'll have more episodes coming shortly. And if you want to stay up to date with us or the podcast, the best place to do it is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chipperchi Azul, Azul_GG. You can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, appreciate the support as always. Good luck to everyone going to Liverpool. Bring your Drapions, bring your Spiritombs, or don't, because I need Mew to win the thing. Leave them at home, actually. Do that. Alberto, do not play Spiritomb. I need you to lose in the finals. Appreciate it. And yeah, catch y'all next week, Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
See ya.